How does the tech that runs our world really work? We break it down to its fundamental truths. This is First Principles.
It's 3 in the afternoon. You're in a coffee shop. The line is long, the air smells like roasted beans and steamed milk, and you're next. You order your usual. The barista turns the screen towards you. The total is $6.50. You reach for your wallet, pull out a card, and you hover it over the payment terminal. For just a fraction of a second, nothing happens. And then a small green checkmark appears, accompanied by a bright, satisfying beep. The transaction is approved. You just paid. You didn't insert anything. You didn't swipe anything. You didn't type in a secret code or scribble a signature. You performed a tiny, almost unconscious gesture, a wave of the hand, and initiated a complex global financial process that moved value from your bank account to this coffee shop's account. And it all happened in less time than it takes to blink. We do this every day. At the grocery store, the gas station, the subway turnstile. We tap our phones, our watches, our little rectangles of plastic, and the world just works. It's one of the most profound pieces of everyday magic in our modern lives. It's so seamless, so utterly frictionless, that we don't even register it as technology anymore. It's just paying. It feels as natural as handing over a few dollar bills. But it's not natural. It's a carefully constructed illusion. And like any good magic trick, its power lies in obscuring the incredible complexity of what's actually going on behind the curtain. So, have you ever stopped to wonder how that actually works? When you hold that inert piece of plastic, a thing with no battery, no power source, no obvious way to communicate, how does it suddenly wake up and talk to the machine in front of it? What is it saying? And in a world where we're constantly worried about digital security, how can it possibly be safe to send our financial information flying through the air? What are the fundamental rules, the first principles, that make this invisible dance possible? Because there is a dance happening, a silent, high-speed conversation that's governed by the laws of physics and the rules of cryptography. Today, we're going to open the black box of the contactless payment. We're going to slow down that half-second transaction and unpack the lifetime of innovation contained within it. We're going to follow the journey of your $6.50 as it ricochets across the globe and back again, all to get you your afternoon coffee. Let's start with the magic we see, the experience itself. The most striking thing about tapping to pay is its speed. It has reduced the act of commerce to its barest essence. A request and a confirmation. The ritual of payment used to be a process, full of little moments of friction. Think back to writing a check. You had to find the checkbook, find a pen, write out the date, the name of the store, the amount in numbers, the amount in words, and then finally your signature. It was a deliberate, time-consuming act. Then came the credit card imprinter, that clunky mechanical device. The satisfying, or perhaps unsatisfying, ka-chunk as the cashier slid the handle over your card, pressing its embossed numbers onto a slip of carbon paper. You'd sign the slip, get your copy, and move on. It was faster than a check, but it was still a physical, mechanical process. It was messy. The carbon paper stained your fingers. The magnetic stripe was a revolution. That simple dark strip on the back of the card held your data, and swiping it through a reader was a huge leap forward. But it still required the right technique. A swipe that was too fast or too slow would result in an error. It demanded a physical interaction, a moment of connection and attention. Then came the chip card, the so-called EMV chip, which stands for Europay, MasterCard, and Visa, the companies that developed the standard. This was a massive leap in security, but a step backward in speed. The dip, as it's sometimes called. You'd insert your card into the slot and wait. And wait. For several seconds, your card was held hostage by the machine as they conducted a more secure but noticeably slower conversation. Each of these steps was a trade-off, a negotiation between convenience and security. A faster method was often less secure. A more secure method was almost always slower. The holy grail was to find a way to have both. Maximum security at maximum speed. That's the magic of the tap. It's not just fast, it's the fastest method we've ever had. But it also feels ethereal, almost insecure. It feels like your card is just shouting its number into the void, hoping for the best. And that feeling gets to the heart of the problem the inventors of this technology had to solve. The world before TapTapE was a world of queues, of lines, of moments of transactional dead time. For a small coffee purchase, the payment could take longer than making the coffee itself. For merchants, this was a problem. Slower lines mean fewer customers served. For customers, it was an annoyance. And for public transit systems, it was a crippling bottleneck. Imagine 1,000 people trying to get through subway turnstiles during rush hour, each one needing to dip a card and wait 5 seconds. It's untenable. The problem was clear. We needed to eliminate the friction. We needed a way to conduct a secure transaction without physical contact. The idea of contactless data transfer isn't new. It has roots in wartime technologies like RFID or radio frequency identification, which was used to distinguish friendly aircraft from enemy ones. But shrinking that technology down, making it cheap enough to embed in a credit card and secure enough to handle money, was a monumental challenge. Early attempts were clumsy. In the late 1990s, mobile gas stations introduced the Speed Pass, a little plastic wand you could wave at the pump. It was one of the first mainstream uses of contactless payment, and it proved that people loved the convenience. But it was a closed system, only for buying gas. The real challenge was creating a universal standard, something that would work everywhere, with any card, at any terminal. This quest set the stage for a new technology, one that would need to solve two seemingly impossible problems. First, how do you power a device that has no battery? A credit card is a passive object. It can't generate a signal on its own. It needs a source of energy. Second, how do you keep the transaction secure when it's happening wirelessly? How do you prevent someone with a scanner from standing next to you in line and digitally pickpocketing you? The solution to these two problems would not only create a new way to pay, but would redefine our relationship with the physical act of commerce. So let's open the box. Let's start with that first, most fundamental mystery: the power. You pull a credit card from your wallet. It's cold, inert plastic and metal. It has no on switch, no charging port, no battery indicator. How, in that moment you hold it near the terminal, does it suddenly come to life? Where does the energy come from? The answer is one of the most elegant and beautiful principles in all of physics, and it was discovered nearly 200 years ago. The principle is called magnetic induction. To understand it, I want you to imagine something. Picture a perfectly still, calm river. In the middle of this river is a small boat. Attached to the side of the boat is a water wheel, like one you'd see on an old mill. As long as the boat is on the still river, nothing happens. The water wheel is motionless. The boat just sits there. Now, imagine the river starts to flow. The water pushes against the paddles of the water wheel, and slowly it begins to turn. As the river flows, it spins the wheel, and that spinning motion can be used to do work, to generate power. In our scenario, the payment terminal is the source of the river. It's constantly emitting a weak, controlled, high-frequency radio field. This field is our invisible, flowing river. It extends only a few inches from the terminal. Your credit card is the boat. Embedded inside the plastic of your card, so thin you can't even feel it, is a tiny antenna, a small coiled loop of wire. This antenna is our water wheel. When you bring your card close to the terminal, you are essentially placing your boat into the flowing river. The radio field, which is a type of magnetic field, flows through the coiled antenna in your card, and just as the flowing water turns the water wheel, the flowing magnetic field induces a tiny electrical current in the card's antenna. This phenomenon, discovered by Michael Faraday in 1831, is the bedrock of most of the electricity we use in the world. It's how power plants generate electricity, how electric motors work, and it's how, in that split second, the payment terminal breathes life into your credit card. The technology is called near-field communication, or NFC, and it's a specific type of radio communication designed to work only at very close range. About 4 inches or less. The terminal generates a 13.56 MHz radio field. When your card's antenna enters that field, it doesn't just receive a signal. It harvests energy from the field itself. That tiny burst of induced electricity, lasting only as long as the card is in the field, is just enough to power up the card's tiny microchip. So, the first piece of the magic is revealed. Your card isn't powerless. It has a latent potential, a tiny engine waiting for a current to push it into motion. The payment terminal doesn't just ask for your information. It provides the very energy the card needs to answer. It's a beautiful, symbiotic exchange. The terminal creates a river of energy, and your card dips its paddle in just long enough to wake up, perform its task, and fall silent again. This is why you have to get so close. The field is intentionally weak. It's a whisper, not a shout, designed to be heard only by a card that is right next to it. This design is the first layer of security. An attacker can't skim your card from across the room because the river simply doesn't flow that far. Now that the card is awake, the second part of the dance begins. The communication. The card and terminal can now talk to each other. They use that same 13.56 MHz frequency to exchange information. It's an incredibly fast back-and-forth conversation. The terminal says, essentially, "Hello, who's there? I have a charge for $6.50. The chip on your card, now powered up, responds. It introduces itself and confirms it's ready to proceed. But what happens next is not as simple as the card sending your account number back to the terminal. What happens next is a lightning-fast journey across a global network. Think of it as a relay race, where the baton is the request for your $6.50. The entire race has to be run from start to finish and back again in about half a second. The race starts at the payment terminal. The terminal is the first runner. It takes the initial information from your card and hands the baton to the second runner. This runner is the merchant's bank, also known as the acquirer. This is the bank that provides the coffee shop with its payment services. The acquirer's job is to take the transaction request and pass it into the main racetrack. This racetrack is the third runner, and it's a name you'll recognize: Visa or MasterCard or American Express. These are the card networks. They are not banks. They don't issue you a card or lend you money. They are the great connectors. They are the referees and the rule makers of the global payment system. Their job is to look at the transaction, see that it's from a Visa card, and know exactly where to send it next. They provide the rails on which these messages travel. The card network instantly routes the request to the final runner in the race, your bank. The bank that actually gave you the credit card. This is called the issuer. Your bank is the one that knows everything about your account. It's the one that has to make the most important decision in this entire process. Approve or decline. In a few milliseconds, your bank's computers run a dizzying number of checks. Does this account actually exist? Is the card reported as stolen? Is there enough money or credit available to cover $6.50? Does this transaction look normal? Is it happening in a city where you normally shop, or does it look suspicious? Like it's suddenly in a different country? These fraud detection algorithms are incredibly sophisticated, analyzing thousands of data points in an instant. Based on these checks, your bank makes its decision. Let's say it's approved. The race isn't over. The message now has to travel all the way back. Your bank, the issuer, hands the approval baton back to the card network, Visa or MasterCard. The network zips it back to the merchant's bank, the acquirer, and the acquirer hands it back to the payment terminal in the coffee shop. The terminal gets the approved message, and that's when it happens. The satisfying beep, the green check mark. The race is over. Think about that journey. From the terminal in front of you, to a server at the coffee shop's bank, across the country to the Visa or MasterCard data center, then to your bank's data center wherever it may be, and then all the way back along the same path. 4 hops in a round trip that crisscrosses the country or even the globe in about 500 milliseconds. It is a staggering feat of global infrastructure, a network of fiber optic cables and data centers operating in perfect sync, all to ensure that your payment is both approved and legitimate. Every single tap you make initiates this incredible globe-spanning relay race. But we've skipped over the most important part of the story, the secret ingredient. We've explained how the card gets its power and where the message goes. But we haven't explained what the message is. And this brings us to the most common misconception about contactless payments and to the single most important innovation that makes it all possible. This is the unseen giant of the whole operation. The common assumption, the one that makes us feel a little nervous about tapping to pay, is that when your card talks to the terminal, it's broadcasting your 16-digit credit card number. The number printed right there on the front of the card. It seems logical. How else would the system know which account to charge? But if that were true, contactless payments would be a security nightmare. Anyone with a sophisticated scanner could sit in a crowded cafe, secretly read the radio waves, and harvest credit card numbers from everyone in the room. But that is not what happens. Not at all. The real story is far more clever, and it's the reason why tapping your card is actually one of the most secure ways to pay. The principle is called tokenization. When your card's chip is powered on by the terminal, it does something remarkable. It performs a feat of high-speed cryptography. It does not send your actual credit card number. Instead, it creates a substitute, a stand-in. This is the token. Think of it like a code name in a spy movie. The spy's real identity is a closely guarded secret. For each mission, they are given a unique one-time-use code name. Even if the enemy intercepts a message with that code name, it's useless for figuring out the spy's true identity or for predicting their next move because the code name will never be used again. The chip on your card does exactly this. Your permanent 16-digit card number, what the industry calls the primary account number, or PAN, is like the spy's real name. It almost never leaves the card. Instead, for that specific $6.50 coffee purchase, the chip generates a brand new, single-use token. This token is a complex, encrypted string of characters. It's created by combining several pieces of information, data unique to your card, the specific amount of the transaction, and the identity of the merchant. It then uses a secret cryptographic key stored securely on the chip to scramble all of this into a one-time-use code. This token is what the card sends to the terminal. This is the baton that gets passed along in our global relay race. So even if a cybercriminal, a digital pickpocket, managed to intercept that communication, What they would capture is not your credit card number. They would capture a token that was valid only for a $6.50 purchase at that specific coffee shop, at that exact moment in time. The token is a self-destructing message. By the time the hacker has it, it's already expired and completely worthless. They can't use it to buy something online. They can't use it to make another purchase at the same store. It is, for all intents and purposes, gibberish. The card networks, like Visa and MasterCard, are the ones who manage this system. When they receive the token from the merchant's bank, they have a secure system, a token vault, that can translate it. They can look up that unique token and match it to your real underlying card number. They then send the real number on to your bank for approval. But this happens within their own secure private network. The sensitive information is never exposed in the wild, out in the open air between your card and the merchant's terminal. This is the profound, counterintuitive truth of tap-to-pay. Waving your card through the air is more secure than swiping it. The magnetic stripe on your card is ancient, dumb technology. It stores your actual card number in plain, unencrypted text. When you swipe your card, that number is transmitted directly to the terminal. That's why criminals invented skimmers, devices that could be hidden inside gas pumps or ATMs to read and steal the data directly from your magnetic stripe. The chip on your card, both for inserting and for tapping, is a tiny, powerful computer. It doesn't just store your number, it protects it. It uses cryptography to act as a gatekeeper, issuing temporary, disposable credentials for each transaction. This is the unseen giant. It's not the radio waves. It's not the speed of the network. It's the sophisticated real-time cryptography that generates a unique disguise for your money every single time you pay. When you use Apple Pay or Google Pay on your phone, the principle is the same, but even more secure. Your phone doesn't even store your real card number. It stores a special token that represents your card, and then it generates another one-time-use token for each transaction, often protected by your fingerprint or your face. It's a token on top of a token. So, let's trace our journey. We started with what feels like a magic trick, a wave of the hand that instantly completes a purchase. We felt the seamlessness of it, the utter lack of friction that sets it apart from every prior form of payment. We then stepped back in time to understand the problem it was built to solve, the constant battle between speed and security at the checkout counter. Then we opened the box. We discovered the first principle, a law of physics from the 1830s, magnetic induction. The terminal creates an invisible river of energy, and the card's tiny antenna acts as a water wheel, catching that energy just long enough to power its chip. There is no battery because the terminal itself is the battery. It's a borrowed spark of life. With the card awake, we followed the transaction on its dizzying, half-second journey around the world. A relay race from the terminal to the merchant's bank, to the vast network of Visa or MasterCard, to your bank for the crucial decision, and all the way back again. A silent, global conversation happening at the speed of light. And finally, we uncovered the deepest secret, the ghost in the transaction. The fact that the entire system is built on a foundation of misdirection. Your real identity, your 16-digit card number, is kept under lock and key. For every single transaction, the chip on your card becomes a master of disguise, creating a unique one-time-use token, a cryptographic phantom that completes its mission and then vanishes without a trace. The misconception is that you're broadcasting your secret. The reality is that you are broadcasting a secret that is designed to be useless to anyone but the intended recipient. Understanding this isn't just a piece of tech trivia. It changes how we see the world around us. It reveals the immense, invisible architectures of trust and technology that we rely on for the simplest of daily acts. That coffee you bought wasn't just a transaction between you and a barista. It was a successful test of a global system, a confirmation that a 19th century physics principle and 21st century cryptography can work in perfect harmony. It shows us that true innovation often isn't about inventing something entirely new, but about elegantly combining existing principles to solve a human problem, like waiting in line. The next time you stand at a counter and reach for your card, take a moment. Feel that inert piece of plastic in your hand, and as you tap it to the terminal and hear that familiar, reassuring beep, remember what's really happening. You are not just paying. You are wielding a tiny passive antenna, catching a whisper of energy from the air, and initiating a high-speed, cryptographic conversation that is over almost before it begins. You are participating in an invisible dance, one that is built on a foundation of borrowed power and a secret that vanishes the moment it's told.
You've been listening to First Principles. Until next time, stay curious.